So with the release of Chapter 122, we finally got a whole bunch of supplementary information on the mysterious Cadres of the Monster Association, the big shot definitive dragon level boss monsters of this arc. And this is really much needed, because I don't even think in the webcomic do we really get too much information about these guys. So it's nice to see it all placed together on this one page where Jennifer recounts all the information. And this page kind of reminds me of something that we would see in a data book. Now, One Punch Man only has one data book currently, and I think it only really covers like the first 38 chapters of the manga, which means that we're in serious need of an update on a data book for the series. And at this point, just in my opinion, it doesn't seem like we're probably ever going to get another one. Now, I certainly hope we do, but it's just not looking likely, in my opinion. So it's nice that we're getting all of this information just shoehorned into the chapters in the meantime. So that's what I want to go over in this video. All of the information that we got, and I also want to add my own little pseudo data book information on the Cadres that aren't talked about in this chapter. So let's get into it. So first up, we have Goketsu, and this guy was originally a human, and a martial arts master at that. So 11 years before the current time in the story, Goketsu had won the very first Super Fight tournament, the same tournament that Suiryu, Garo, Silverfang, and Bakuzan had won after him, but it was implied that it was probably the most difficult one considering it was the biggest ever, and I don't think Silverfang was a participant in this tournament, so that it would have been noted if he was, just putting that out there. But he was so impressive as a human that he sought the attention of Orochi and Giro, who basically kidnapped him, tortured him a little bit, and then fed him a monster cell, and that's how he became the cadre that he was until he was taken out by Saitama. But let me also note that he only ate one monster cell and became what I estimate to be like high dragon in power. So he was probably pretty powerful as a human. I mean, he did win the tournament after all. So next up, we have Elder Centipede. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to be saying here is what I've been able to piece together through context and how the story has been playing out. None of this is like data book stuff or anything like that. So I assume that Elder Centipede was kind of born the way that he is. He wasn't like a regular centipede that mutated or anything like that. He's similar to what I suppose the sea folk are, how Dr. Genus puts it, how just some monsters are born that way. Also, I assume that he's really old, I mean, given his name, Elder, but also we see him in the mural of the Subterraneans down in the Monster Association when we see Child Emperor taking on Phoenix Man, so he's probably been around for a while. And also, I assume that that's how the Monster Association came into contact with Elder Centipede, because it's implied that they kind of took over the Subterraneans' base from them, then wiped them all out. And then I assume that Elder Centipede was down there because it seems like they kind of lived together. And then he was like, hey, this guy's a little too powerful, let's keep him around. And that's what led them to convince him to join the Monster Association in order to get revenge on Blast. And that brings me to my next point, is that this guy has the distinction of being Blast's only known opponent in the manga so far, and he had lived to tell the tale as he was able to retreat from Blast. So he has that to his record. And also, Murata says that he is 15 meters wide, or 49 feet. So yeah, he's pretty massive. So next up we have Neon, and he's one of the more interesting monsters in the series because we see that he was originally like literally a house cat, and then I suppose through his overbearing, unwanted love and caring from his owner, that forced the negative explosion of emotions and cells within him, and that caused him to become a monster. But not only that, but like he became like a super intelligent dragon level monster, one of the more powerful transformations we have seen just through natural monsterifications in the series. Like typically with other like animals and stuff like that, we've seen through the House of Evolution, that's how they became so powerful, or through monster cells or whatnot. So Neon, just by sheer luck, I suppose, or just the intense hatred that he had for humans and his owner, that allowed him to become as powerful as he was, or currently is. He's still alive. So next up we have Führer Ugly, and he's a special type of monster known as an Ugmon. So as we were just talking about with Neon, typically monster transformation happens through an explosion of negative emotions which causes a cellular reaction. But with the Ugmons, apparently this happens when their hatred accumulates and their hearts are swallowed by darkness, and then they turn into monsters. So this is very similar to typical monstrification, but it also says that their strength after turning into monsters is influenced by the hideousness of their heart. So I suppose that there's a distinction here because Ugmons as humans are particularly ugly or just unesthetically appealing. You know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, of course, but I suppose that if you're ugly as a human was like the ugliest of them all, and that's why he was able to become as powerful as he currently is, which is, of course, dragon level. I mean, he is a cadre after all, so I guess that goes hand in hand with his particular type of transformation. But the new information that we're getting on him from chapter 122 says that he possesses a resilient physical body and savagery. So I suppose that's confirming that he is pretty durable, and we saw that he is particularly fast and pretty strong as well from his encounter with the Mind Mask. And then it says that he can see through his opponents and figure out the attacks they fear the most, and uses relentless violence and swearing to destroy people both mentally and physically. So that's a different approach of attack for monsters that we've seen so far. And also, we kind of got a glimpse of it when he called the My Mask a handsome POS. One of the best insults in the series so far. So next up, we have Homeless Emperor. And this guy was just a normal dude who was working at like a 9-to-5 job until he got tricked into, you know, getting fired via harassment for staging like some kind of lewd party act. And then he just became super misanthropic with the world and decided that humanity was cancer to the earth, essentially, and that he was going to take himself out just so he can be one with the earth. And then that's when the mysterious being known as God had confronted him and bestowed him the quote-unquote mysterious light energy that creates massive explosions. So, yeah, then he just became a dragon because of this. But also, more information that we're getting on him from chapter 122 says that his physical abilities are similar to that of a normal human. So I guess that clears up any other questions we had about him. So he does have the mysterious light energy, but aside from that, he's just a normal person. So I suppose that if you can get past his light abilities, you could just physically restrain him or just knock him out. Like, maybe even a C-class hero could take care of him if they can get past his energy. So next up we have Gums, and this is the cadre that we get the least amount of exposition or just info about in general. And your guess is as good as mine as to what this guy was before he joined the Monster Association. He might have been born a monster, he might have been a human, I don't know. It doesn't really even seem like he has much intelligence, he doesn't really say anything. But thankfully we do get more info on him in chapter 122, where it says, driven by his limitless appetite, he devours targets with a bite force capable of crushing heavy machinery and a bottomless stomach. So he's pretty much the same as Pig God, just in monster form. So next up we have Evil Natural Water, and the origin of this thing is a little difficult to come up with. I'm going to assume that this is one of the extremely rare cases of like spontaneous monstrification. I'm assuming, since it's basically sentient water, although the eyeballs are a little odd, although we don't get any information on them. But also, we could just assume that Giro Giro just straight up found this thing randomly, maybe using her power scaling abilities, and not even she could control it, as she just kind of had to lock it away in that glass case and put it in a safe. Like, I guess it was like a last case scenario type of thing, because it wasn't even included in the original matchups against the Strike team. So the more info that we get on it in chapter 122 says that it's a liquid life form that reacts to negative emotions like hostility and hatred, and increases its volume by absorbing water and attacks with water cannons. So we also kind of saw this when we first saw it break out of the glass case, as it was kind of small at first and then very quickly it became big. So I guess we saw that it's just absorbing water from the air, and that adds to its size, and also the jet water cannons that it has essentially can pierce through anything. So next up we have Overgrown Rover, and based off of its intelligence and just disposition, I'm going to assume that it has a similar origin to that of Neon, meaning that it was just like a regular dog, and then just suddenly underwent an explosion of negative emotions, cellular reaction, and then became what it is now. Just taking a guess, of course, but the more information that we get on it in chapter 122 says that it catches prey with its speed and agility, which we saw prominently on display in chapter 91 when it was wrecking Garo, and has a habit of submitting to more powerful beings. So I'm assuming that's how the Monster Association was able to get it under their guard. Maybe Orochi kind of just muscled it around and then just forced it to be their cadre, more or less. And then it says, when angered, it will spit out scorching bombs that reduces the surrounding to rubble. And yeah, we saw those in Chapter 91 too. One of the most impressive attacks in the series so far. And then lastly, we have Black S. So the origin of this thing, I have no idea. It has like a humanoid face and a humanoid body, and it has pretty good intelligence, so it's possible that it was a human at first, but I don't know, it has such a unique, odd ability that makes me question that. It's like, what was this thing originally? Or maybe it was born a monster. But the more information that we get on it in Chapter 122 says that it can freely divide and increase in numbers, as we saw in his fight against Atomic Samurai, and each individual entity is self-conscious and possesses a high level of combat ability. So I guess that means that like when it splits, it becomes like its own personality. And not one Black S is the same as another one. Or they all kind of group together and could bind into one consciousness, which certainly makes it original compared to the typical multiplication, splitting enemies, monsters that we see in battle manga. But yeah, even when it splits, it still possesses a high level of combat ability. As we saw, like, even the little versions of itself, when it multiplies, can still, you know, give Atomic Samurai a pretty good beatdown. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you thought about this one. What do you think about the Cadres? Was there anything else that you wanted to add to this conversation that I might have missed in this video? And if you liked it, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.